below the middle of the page. The line begins with the word zulas. So we are delving into sechel or mochin and pointing out that mochin can function independently of anything else. There is an internal significance to its experience, and therefore it doesn't have to go any further. You don't have to be delving into haskalah in order to be teaching somebody or so forth. Just that alone is already self-sufficient. This is the depth of mochin. To the extent that really when one has to delve deeply into his mind, into his soul, in order to get an insight, to be involved with someone else is really disturbing, confusing. Does not allow to delve into the core of the sechel. This is what we learned at the last of the end of previous line, zulas. Adrab hazulas mevalvel. The zulas is mevalvel, he disturbs. Although normally the projection of giving over a sechel opens up the mind into to broader perspective. But when you have to get into the essence of it, in the core, on the contrary, this is disturbing. And now the next line, v'gam, and also, when one needs to weigh, lishka means to weigh, to judge in his mind, to balance out between two svaris, two principles, two concepts. And he has to balance out which one is preferable, which one does he recognize as being a more significant, a truer concept. Then, then he must consider it. Yashiv means discuss or judge back and forth. Like one sits with another person and they each one gives his opinion. The Yashiv has to debate within himself, by himself. At that moment, he has to be his kasher. He has to bind, tie himself lahoinyan to the principle, to the inyan itself. And the Rebbe explains, what does it mean, his kasher lahoinyan? Lahakir, to recognize, or lahargish, and to sense, amitis hasvoros, the truth and correctness of the svaris, of the arguments, or the principles that are being presented. And then he has to judge between them. How does he judge? Makriya, that has a way between them. This is apiyah ha'hakora, based on the cognizance, v'hargosha, and the sensing, ba'amitis ha'inyan. Ba'amitas ha'inyan, he senses what the truth of the inyan is. So we're using we're going back and forth a little bit. Svaris and Inyan. Svaris are the rationale, the intelligent presentation, intelligent arguments, explanations. Then there is the Inyan, and as we discussed many times, and just recently, the Svara is not the real thing. The Svara is only explaining a sense of something that is true in itself. The truth of the Inyan itself. In order to weigh and to judge between two possibilities, it is if you can find some kind of fault, a weakness, a contradiction with one, then you have it easy. But we're not talking about that. He doesn't find any fault with any. Each one.
Both sides are correct.
Both sides are solid in their own presentation. The question is, how completely are they representing the concept itself?
In this discussion, we're considering we have to choose one or the other, or not necessarily?
I don't know. This is not. If he needs to judge between two swaras, he needs to judge between two swaras.
It refers to secular thought. You know what dichotomy is?
You know what dichotomy is?
So it's looks like it. Okay, forget it.
Here we are talking about him judging between two swaras that he himself came up with. It's not been judging between two opposite opinions. In order to have a sense of a judgment between two possibilities that are open to him, that both make sense, he has to delve into the broader and the deeper reality. What is this about? Eventually we'll come up with a very straight, pointed illustration of this question here. He says he has to be machliya, he has to weigh between them.
To remain on this call, press 1.
I'm afraid to go away because they are going to complain.
Returning to the conference room.
Machliya, to decide between two equally powerful points. This decision is seeking to see which one of these points expresses the truth and the principle that we're trying to express better. It's not a question of correctness, it's not a question of which one holds water. Both of them hold water. Are they making the statement that we're trying to make? To what degree are they making the statement in totality? This is the machliya, and there, where does he get the means by which to pass judgment? He has to get into the essence of the svara. And then he senses what is this about. And then he's able to come up with a decision. There is no peripheral manner by which to judge it.
What would be a close translation to the word?
Sorry?
What would be a translation of the word svara?
Concept.
Concept. Like.
Bye. Thought. Okay, so we're on the line that begins with the word hargosha. Hargosha ba'amitas ho'inyan, the sensing of the truth of the inyan, the sensing into the truth of this inyan, not how it manifests and what its consequences are, but its own truth. I had an interesting experience, a personal experience yesterday. You know, something, a judgment call. We were walking, and as we were walking, just about 20 feet away, in the direction we were walking, there was somebody standing with a plate collecting. And it would be for the purpose of reaching our goal in terms of where we're walking, we would do well to turn to a side and to avoid meeting up with this collector. But even just for the walking there, this would be also a better way of going. So I said to my wife that we're not allowed to turn away. Because when you turn away, it looks like you're turning away from meeting up with the request for tzedakah. And we were explained that if someone comes up to you and he asks for the results and you don't have what to give him, you don't want to give him, it's one thing. But if you turn away trying to avoid meeting up with him, this is an outright prohibition. Malim atzim min hatzedakah, it's called. Malim min hatzedakah. He looks away from recognizing that there is a request for tzedakah, as if and making and avoiding the challenge, so to speak. So here is a situation like this. Which one is worse? Someone asks you, and you decide not to give him, or you avoid meeting up with him. Knowingly. So this is a judgment call. Because if someone asks you and you decide against it, you recognize him and you decide not to give. When you avoid meeting him, you are lying to yourself that you never met him. This is what the Pasuk talks about. Mari manu yanzok. So this, even though you are ignoring, you are refusing it to him in your face, and yet, in a certain sense, this is worse because you avoid recognizing that he's there. Okay, let's go. See, Hamit is Adover is a line. And to reach and to sense, to delve into Hamit is Adover. The truth of it. The truth means the core truth, not the periphery and the consequential truth. It's possible only when you delve into it, when you discuss it within yourself. V'zehu, and this explains the Gam Sanhedrin hoyu nation v'nation b'neiha. That the Sanhedrin also, when there was a serious question by the Sanhedrin, so they in order to come up with a decision, there were different stages. And one of the stages was nation b'neiam. They debated and go back and forth. And this was kol echad v'yechad li'atzmi. Each one unto himself. There is that stage where each one turns away and he delves into it in his own mind, without anyone producing different arguments. Or in banzuga, or with his partner. They would partner up, and they would debate it between themselves. And then he also has to delve into his own mind and judge it in that secure, in that focused situation.
What?
But there is no interference from someone else.
Seemed like the main thing. So no one else. But what's the Ben Zug suddenly doing there?
There's both. First he goes with Ben Zugal.
First he goes alone.
No, first he decided to catch it Ben Zugal. This is where the surface what has come up.
Wow.
Each one presents an argument. Then in order to fully judge and come up with his opinion, he has to isolate himself. The halacha by Sanhedrin is, a Sanhedrin, if one of the judges in Sanhedrin says, I vote this way, because that's what I learned from my Rebbe. He is automatically disqualified. He has to have his own opinion. That's why we need 70 members, 70 opinions. Maybe not 70 opinions, but 70 sources. V'gam ba'atzmoi. And even when one is on his own and delving into his own thought, sense, tzorich lahashkid hakoiches ha'acherim.
To remain on this call, press 1.
I think this time we are safe. Tzorich lahashkid hakoiches ha'acherim. He has to calm. Hashkid means to quieten down. HaKoiches ha'acherim, the other koiches, other senses. Levad koich ha'sechel, that is besides the koich ha'sechel. What are koiches ha'acherim? Pity and mercy. These are qualities that would come into play when you have to judge in terms of how you deal with a certain situation. But that's not sechel. This is one's own inclination. When you judge it to yourself in terms of halacha, you have to mashkin, you have to quieten down all the other viewpoints, the other arguments and values, and judge it and go into pure sechel. Shelvat koyach haseichel. Because the judgment that he is asked is, what is your sechel say? Not what it looks like. And he has to hold them back, the other svaris, other koiches, that they should not spread forth, they should not express themselves. Not allow his other qualities to express themselves. He has to judge a pure sechel, and that is it. And only then, then he can come and touch the truth of this sechel. Now, what is so holy about the sechel that you're putting all other qualities, like I said, good qualities, mercy and pity and generosity and concern and so forth. These are very positive qualities. And yet you have to put them aside and go to the sechel. What is so special about sechel? And this is what we were discussing this whole time. Mochin. Sechel tells you what the truth of the neshama is. It's a different level of truth. On the worldly level, there's all other viewpoints, other arguments. In our world, political correctness is also an argument. There has to be a pure view from sechel. This sechel element is a true sechel, is a personal view coming directly from his neshama.
And yet you could have different opinions.
Yes, because in the neshama there isn't that situation. You have to think what is the swara, what is the truth behind it.
I'm having difficulty understanding. I mean, I sense.
Okay.
I sense it, but
Okay, so you're B'nei Natzmei. This is what the Rebbe is explaining. And he has to hold back all the other koiches that they should not express themselves. Hold them off. And only then he will come, which means he will reach and touch the truth of the sechel, the truth of this swara, of this concept. The sechel, the Rebbe talks about two things: amitzvah sechel or haskol chadosh. Hasechel, this is the way to explain a certain phenomenon. Haskol chadosh is a new concept. A new concept, that is really created from a neshama insight. Which means, the Rebbe continues, the gam is pashus hakoiches, that even the spreading forth of the other koiches, shelavad koich haseichel, other true koiches, shelavad koich haseichel, that is distinct from the koich haseichel, mevalbelim al haseichel. They disturb and interfere with the seichel. Even though they're also neshama koiches, so to speak, and the mevavel amitin rasech b'tzorich le'atzrom u'liyakvam, and it is necessary for him to contain them. And without that containment, they're going to be disturbing, and you won't be able to identify the true principle in the sechel. Okay. This is one principle that was presented here, explaining how it is that sechel needs to be addressed in total privacy, to delve into his own sense of truth. The halacha states clearly, as a pasuk in the Torah, you must not give preference to the poor in judgment. The poor is much more needy in this debate. It's quite a powerful argument to go and say, help him. And his opponent is wealthy. So what's the point? You say we're going to have the opponent return, hold back $10,000 before it's significant. By him, it's insignificant. So immediately your judgment is blurred. Bedol lo yisehada beriva. It's a posik in the Torah. A posik in the Torah. You must not give preference and cognizance to a dole, to the poor, beriva, in his debate, in his argument. Because the argument has to be judged by divine principle. The truth, the divine truth in the world. This is not a question of what's politically correct or of humanly correct. This is why a preamble to this whole presentation, the Torah says, "Ha-mishpot le'elikim hu." Mishpot belongs to Le'elikim, to God. A correct judgment is a statement that this is what God says. This is the right thing to do. Therefore, the Sanhedrin, the Bezdin, the Rav has to tell you what God is saying, not what is humanly correct or preferable. In order to do that, he has to free himself from all other influences, good influences, and delve into see where is the godly message statement. That is not easy to come at. He needs to free himself and then delve deeply into his own mind to see where is the divine truth.
Usually, when we talk about divine truth impacting the world, we talk about eses spheros. Here in this decision making, the divine truth of it is limited to the sechli element, not to the other spheres. outside by tzedakah, there is the obligation of tzedakah, but here we're saying that piece gets put aside for the sake of.
Sometimes there is not a divine question. Now, what's it? If Dolet Debri means the poor is saying this money belongs to me, and the wealthy says no, it belongs to me. The argument is unrelated to their
Condition.
To their condition.
Right. Okay.
You have to judge it on that basis.
Right. In the bigger picture, their condition matters, and we're obligated for tzedakah. Et
That's
cetera.
something else.
That's a different topic.
That's a different topic completely. That's a different stage. Right. So here we are pointing out, still on the principal topic, that sechel needs total quiet from any other input. Even if the input comes from himself, not from someone else. He has to quieten down his own internal struggles. He's inclined for mercy. If you're inclined to mercy, step away from judgment. For halachic judgment. Alright, we're not through with it, but I don't think we can get into the next stage today. What happened to all the people, I guess, okay. Okay, so we are now really on a new stage in this discussion.